Welcome to Unapologetically Badass, the podcast for women over 40 who are done dimming their light. I'm your host, Renae Fleming, coach, queen, and master of the midlife glow up. Solo chats, epic guests, no filter. Let's freaking go. Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to a fabulous another episode of Unapologetically Badass. I am Renae, your host, and today this is going to be a really exciting conversation. We are talking about stop hustling against your body, feminine leadership, burnout, and building success in flow with Renae Fieck. Did I do the last name right?
It's Fieck, but it's good. You know, it's like constantly, my kids even are like, Mom, it's always mispronounced. It's like for them even too. So I take no offense. It's no big deal.
I apologize. I even review this for listeners. I always review their pronunciations. I'm like Dory, I think sometimes. I have a good memory, just short, you know.
It just happens. And it's one of those things I'm like, I cannot let my name mispronunciation bother me. Like it just doesn't. So
yeah. Okay. I always look at the same thing. I'm like, I've been called worse. So it's all
yes.
good.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. Okay. So let's dive in. Let's talk about what you are doing now in this whole feminine leadership and understanding your body. And let's dive in.
Yeah. Well, and if you had asked me 10 years ago if this is what I would be talking about bodies and periods and women and how we work differently, I would have thought you were completely crazy. I never anticipated this was where I was going to be. It literally came out of pure necessity. I had a husband that was diagnosed with a brain tumor in the same month that found out I was pregnant, and also got what I thought was my dream job, working at the Children's Hospital. And so it sent us on this whirlwind of a year of really looking at, are we living the life we want to be living? Is this how we want to be living? And at the time, I wanted more time with my kids. I wanted to be able to raise them. I wanted to be home with them. I didn't want to be working as much. And so I started a network marketing business, as I think a lot of women do, trying to build some extra revenue, and found myself completely hustling. Every ounce of extra spare time was traded towards this one day, someday goal that I was going to get, and found a couple years in that I was burning myself out, really, truly. Kind of wondering if maybe it was something I didn't have. Maybe there was some secret sauce that other people had that made them successful in entrepreneurship that wasn't for me, and that I just needed to give up, or something had to shift. Like the things I got into it for was like more time with my family and more money. And I feel like I was spending more money in coaches and spending all of my free time asking my husband, I'm like, hey, can you put the kids to bed? Can you do this? Or, all of these things for the one day, hoping that it was going to take off. And it just wasn't. And that's when I dove into every productivity hack, every habit stacking, every, neuro-based research, like anything I could find to make the work that I was doing more effective and easier. And that's when I discovered how men and women are just so different. And a lot of the tools and the systems and the strategies that we are being taught weren't really ever designed for women in the first place. And so I went on this whole journey trying to figure out, like, how do women actually work? Like, how do our brains impact the way we show up? How do our hormones impact how much energy we have? And, those days when we feel like we suck and everything's falling apart is not necessarily random. It's actually pretty predictable based on where our hormones are at. So it took me on this whole journey diving into that, and then started sharing it with my clients. And that's when they were like, this is what everybody needs to know. Like, more women need to know about this because it's such a huge game changer.
Yes, for sure. Well, tell us more about that. How do women understand their bodies so that they can recognize, because we know, yes, men and women are different. We show up differently based on our hormones as well. So how do you teach that to women to understand their own bodies?
Yeah. Well, I think first off, it's really valuable to kind of understand, like, men operate in a 24-hour rhythm with testosterone. So they wake up in the morning and they have a fresh dose of testosterone. It kind of waxes and wanes as the day goes on. They go to bed, they wake up the next day with a fresh dose of testosterone. So when we look at a lot of the systems and tools, things out there about consistency and having consistent morning routines, consistent habits, it works really well for them because their routine, their rhythm is this 24-hour rhythm. Whereas women, we have estrogen and progesterone that play out more in a monthly dance. So estrogen's more dominant in the first half of the month, and then progesterone's more dominant in the second half. And they feel very different. They feel like the way we think, and what we know now based on some of the research they've done with MRIs and looking at the brain, is that they help us, or like at different times of the month, different parts of our brain are more active than others. Yeah. So those, we feel a little bit more foggy. We feel like we're not coming up with anything. We feel like we're, struggling to create content or whatever we're doing. And then those other times when we feel so on fire, we feel confident, we feel like crushing those bigger goals and feeling like get the productivity queen, like everything's flowing, is due to the shifts of those hormones. And there's not a single day in our entire month where that hormone cocktail is exactly the same. So when we look at creating systems and we create plans and we create rhythms in our business, it really is more in this monthly rhythm, instead of looking at it like, how do I do the same things over and over every single day, and looking at the differences between that. Each one of those different phases as we go throughout the month, they all have their own strengths. They all have their own kind of what I call superpowers. They all have their own weaknesses. Like there's things that are going to be more difficult at certain times, and other times they're going to be on fire with this other component. So it's really about understanding how we're different throughout that whole month and working with it so that it gets done far easier. I'm sure you've probably had one of those moments where you get on a podcast and you're like, dude, that was the worst. Like, yeah, right. I was not on my game on that podcast. And then other times where you're like, man, I said so much fire. Like that was amazing. That was wonderful. And it really is likely due to just where you were in your cycle.
And is it dependent on when women have their cycles, is when they see the spike in progesterone or estrogen? Is that because we're not all the same as far as when, we have these spikes?
What do you mean?
So is it based on women's menstrual cycles when they see the increase in energy or the decrease?
Yeah. So for women, so generally, like if you are in a menstruating age, right, when you're like having a normal menstrual cycle, that menstrual phase is going to be the time when most of your hormones are going to be at the lowest. And then you enter into that follicular phase. That's when your estrogen starts to climb. That's the time when you're going to feel the most ready to get things up off the ground, try new projects, do new things, get that big momentum going. And then you reach the top of that estrogen curve. And that's when you're ovulating. So your body's like releasing an egg and going to feel primed to be on camera and talk and confident and radiant and magnetic and all those things, because your body is physiologically trying to make a baby. So it's going to be very attractive in that way. And then that's when estrogen dips off, and then progesterone kicks in, and progesterone just feels very different. In that luteal phase, oftentimes people feel a little bit more emotional. They feel maybe a little bit more moody. They want to turn inward and do things maybe on the back end of business, like very dot your T's, cross your I's type of tasks versus being on camera type of tasks. So it can be very productive. Like writing is a great thing to do in that phase. They're just very different. Now, if you don't have a menstrual cycle, I believe that women are all still as human beings, we're very cyclical, just in general. Like you look at the world and you look at the universe, like there are so many rhythms in literally everything. We look at the stock market. We look at the way the tides happen. We look at seasons. We look at migration patterns. Like our world is so cyclical. It is just human beings that have come in and said, can we produce all year long? Can we produce all the time? Can we be on and going all the time? And it's disrupting a lot of Mother Nature. We'll put it there. But when we look at the way women and men function in that rhythm, women follow the moon cycle. So that's like the natural occurring rhythm that follows the same menstrual cycle that we have. And men have the sun that operates more in that daily rhythm. And so if you don't have a menstrual cycle, I still firmly believe, and I've seen it happen multiple times, that women that kind of try to follow up with the moon and follow that same rhythm tend to create the same rhythms within their bodies. They create more balance, they create more ease, they create more of this like sustainability that wasn't there when they're just trying to produce all the time. So regardless of kind of menstrual status, our bodies operate and thrive when we're in more of this rhythm versus just trying to produce all the time.
How do you help women figure this out and understand this, find what their rhythm then looks like so that they can plan? Because it really is important when you have an understanding of, your cycle, the moon, the energy. you show up differently for your
Yeah.
business and for your family, right? And
Yeah.
so it really does help women to create a schedule that works for them, and they're working smarter and not harder because they don't have to work the 30 days. They're working just when they know they can optimize and be their best versions of themselves. So how do you help women figure this out?
Yeah, such a great question. I think number one, the first part is kind of at the core of everything I do is helping women learn to trust and listen to themselves.
Mm,
I think as a society, we've really been taught to outsource our power and give our voice and our power to somebody else, whether it's coaches or it's mentors or if it's magazines or if it's the news or wherever it is. There's so much inundating us, telling us what we need to be doing, how we need to be doing it, what it needs to look like, what's whatever, that a lot of us have lost touch with actually what it is listening to ourselves, whether that's our physical body or whether it's our intuition, whether it's our gut, whatever parts of it are, our bodies are speaking to us every single day, all the time. And most of us are just so busy going all the time that we don't listen to it. So I know I had some issues with one of my hips and it was like bothering me and it was hurting for a while. And I just kept pushing through and kept pushing through until it was a no go. Like it was not going to let me go any further. And, when we look at pains and aches and things in our bodies, that's generally how it happens. It doesn't
right.
all of a sudden we get hit by a bus. It's our body gave us subtle little aches, subtle little pains, subtle little twinges for a little bit while. And it's saying, are you going to listen to me? Or do I need to really hit you over the head with something that's going to incapacitate you before you're going to actually listen to me? So I think one, it's like, how do we start listening to the body? How do we start listening to your intuition? And a big part of that is one, just slowing down. And so having moments of pause, having moments of check-in, having that deeper somatic integration and awareness. And then the other piece of that is actually just like starting to integrate it into your cycle or into your calendar. Like the amount of women that are not tracking their cycles
Yeah.
is surprising to me. I mean, maybe not surprising because I probably wasn't tracking it that well before, but the women that are tracking it are generally just tracking their periods. They're not tracking any of those other phases or aware of what's ever happening. So I think that is a big part of it. It's like, let's just start figuring out when is your period and then when is ovulation, because really ovulation is the queen of the whole thing.
Mhm.
If your cycles are irregular or they're off or there's something going on funky with it, the ovulation is really going to be your telltale point. She is the ruler of everything that's happening, whether you're ovulating late, whether you're ovulating early. Ovulation is the queen of the entire thing. And that's one that most women aren't tracking. So I think that's a big part of it is like learning just what physiologically do we need to track. And then also how do we create those moments and those integrations to actually, those practices to actually start listening to the body.
Yes, and it's you're right with the, God kind of gives you those little like signs, and then when you don't
Mhm.
listen, the brick gets thrown at you because
Yeah.
okay, I've been telling you all along. So when they understand, okay, I love astrology and I totally love the new moon and following
Mhm.
that, and so I could figure out when am I my best self and when do I need to kind of give myself grace, because that's a lot of the issue that women
Yeah,
have. We don't give ourselves grace to
totally.
go, you know what? I know I'm not going to be the best version of myself at this particular moment, at this particular day, this particular week. So that's the time when, I'm going to take some steps back. I'm going to do some things for myself. I'm going to go
Mhm.
on vacations. I believe you also said like you have a lot of weeks vacation because you're so
Mhm.
in tune with
Mhm.
your body and your productivity that you're able to then decompress and
Yeah.
go ahead, tell them how long. I don't want to spill it. How long?
Yeah. Well, so that menstrual phase is what I call like your recharge week. It's your week that when you actually recharge during that week, it's like a slingshot, right? We pull the slingshot back, and then when we pull it back really far, it's going to shoot really far. So that next phase is your follicular phase when you're the most productive, getting things done. And imagine if you did that when you have a full tank of gas versus I'm exhausted and depleted. So that recharge week is not just about recharging and resting, but it's like, how do I really set myself up to be the most productive through the rest of the month? So yes, I love taking time off. I love taking vacations. I love whatever, but it's because when I do that, it enables me to be more productive in those other phases. We've, as a society, really gotten it kind of backwards in terms of like, we just got to keep hustling through. We got to push past the excuses. We just got to do the things, even when it doesn't feel good. Like all of these messages that we hear that are supposed to be really motivational.
Yeah.
And sometimes we do, right? Like sometimes our ego and our fear and excuses are going to populate up. And so it really becomes important for us to be able to decipher, like, is this my body speaking to me? Or is this a moment that I really truly, and I need to really truly slow down? Or is this fear? Is this an excuse? Like what's coming up? And when we have the awareness of where our body's at, that really helps us be able to decipher that, like to be able to say, oh no, I actually am right in the thick of my period week. I'm bleeding out. I'm exhausted. I actually do need to take a nap. Like me taking a nap right now is not me being weak. It is not me being lazy. It's not me not being able to be committed to my goals. It's legit a physiological need my body has right now.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really important for women. So it gives us a lot more permission to create the lifestyle that we want, to be able to honor what's coming up for us. So that week that I take off, I generally try to take off social media during that week and get really just in tune with where am I going? What am I creating? What are my goals? What's that vision that I really want to create? I actually, when I first started working with clients, I used to call it the recharge phase, and I still do.
Quick crown check, queen. If you're vibing with this episode, you're exactly the type of badass I built my empire for. Whether you're building your fuck it fund, launching your brand, craving a midlife reinvention, or just want to look and feel like $1,000,000 freaking bucks, I've got you. From merch that speaks your truth to digital tools, coaching, and yes, even collagen that slaps. I serve the sass, the strategy, and the sparkle to help women over 40 take up space and cash checks doing what they love. Head on over to renaecarbonefleming.com or tap the link in the show notes. Pick your flavor of badass and let's turn your midlife into your power era.
But I now see it more as your CEO phase. Like this is the time for you to get back into that place of really casting the vision, because what we know is like the most successful entrepreneurs are not the ones that do the most work. They're not the ones that are in there doing all the weeds every day. They're the ones who cast the vision and make sure that they're really headed towards that vision. And there's a lot of stuff I'm sure you can account to. There's a lot of stuff in business that is not necessary, that we don't need to be doing, but we think we need to. It becomes this busy work that keeps us trudging through. And then we get 6 months, a year down the road, and we're like, wait, I haven't made this much progress as I wanted. And it's because we're spending all of our time on things that don't really move the needle. So this recharge, this rest week, it's actually the most sacred. It's actually the most important part of your business, because it's not about just the rest and making sure you have enough energy to be productive. It's about how do we recalibrate back to the ultimate vision of where you're going? How do we make sure that you're on track with your goals? How do we make sure that you're focusing on the things that are actually moving the needle? How do we really get you back into the identity of who you're becoming and where you're going? And so it isn't just like, hey, I'm taking a lazy week. Like I'm so amazing and wonderful, I just take a week off every month. It's like, no, that week is the most important week of your business.
And so what do you tell women who are like, no, I can't take time off of my business. Like, what do you tell them?
I think it just takes time. Like, I think you don't have to go from like 180 to 0 in one cycle, and you don't have to do it all at once. Like, I think for me, even when I started, it was a slow graduation, a slow process in terms of, how can I adapt this? How can I integrate this into my cycle? Even when you look at just the whole cycle, not just the week off, but when you look at all of it, it's like transitioning everything all at one time can feel really overwhelming. So maybe right now it's just the awareness of, hey, I'm just going to put this on my calendar. I maybe won't change anything, but when I get to that place and I'm feeling like I'm trudging through and I'm just feeling like the weight of my world, and you look at your calendar and you're like, oh, this is why. It just releases some of that pressure. So even if you don't change anything, just knowing where you are in your cycle can make a huge difference for women. And then the question then becomes, what micro change can you make? Maybe it's only 10% of what you're doing. Maybe it's only looking at your workouts. Like for me, changing my workout routine makes a huge difference in the amount of energy and how I show up every day. So if I know when I'm prime in that follicular ovulatory phase, I'm going to go hard, I'm going to push hard, I'm going to do crazy things. And then when I get into that luteal and menstrual phase, I'm going to let myself take a walk or do some yoga or do something a little bit light, and just adapting those things, which are already set in my schedule. They're just modifying what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. That can make a huge difference. So it could be just simply looking at that, like what is capable, what are you able to shift and change, and then let that progress change over time. Maybe you don't take a whole week. Maybe you carve out 4 hours in that first week. And then maybe the week after that, it's like one day. And then you slowly just start integrating. I think for a lot of us, like once we start doing it, we start realizing how powerful it really truly is. Like, even for me, this over Christmas, I took off everything in business, like no social media, no opening my emails, like nothing from Christmas through New Year's. And just the way I felt during that time was so worth it. I was like, man, I need to do more of this, like even in those other months throughout the whole year. Like, how do I actually intentionally take off literally everything, like not open anything? Because even now, I still will open up my emails. I still make sure things are moving. I just don't schedule big things in that week, you know? And so, yeah, it's incredible.
I love the idea of modifying it. So really to women, give yourself grace, understand first, you're going to get to understanding what your cycle looks like, what your energy looks like during each part of your cycle, whether you get your periods or you're menopausal and you don't have them, but understanding that first, and then determining what you're going to do each of those weeks.
Yeah.
It's so important. I love that. And I love the giving, ourselves grace and the rest when, our bodies are telling us that we need it, for sure.
Yeah. And I just want to preface too, like I am a huge advocate that your cycle isn't a hindrance. I see a lot of women like posting and sharing like, oh, we can't do XYZ because it's my luteal phase, or, oh, we can't do XYZ because of menstrual phase. But if we look through history and we look through time, women do freaking amazing things. We don't need an excuse to tell us that we can't. Like, I really want you to walk away from this conversation feeling empowered to learn to trust your body, to learn how to leverage your body even more, to listen to it even deeper, to be able to amplify what you're doing. Because I believe that women have so much healing and so much gifting to give to the world. Like, women need a bigger voice in lots of the different platforms in our world. And I think the only way that we're going to do that is if we become more effective at what we're doing. So don't see it as like, oh, I can't because it's this like weakness. It's a question of, how do I use my cycle to my advantage? How do I use this knowledge and this understanding of my body to empower me even deeper and even further, rather than being something that's holding me back?
Yes, exactly. Well, it is a superpower.
Yes.
This is our superpower. So we can identify when we can optimize our life and the work that we do. So knowing that, that is huge. Knowledge is power. And so understanding where it all stems from is the first thing. And sadly, and I was talking about this with a friend the other day, like there's so much that should be taught also in school, teenagers and, women, both boys and girls, to really understand their bodies and their cycles and what their hormones are, and understanding what the future is going to look like at menopausal. There's so many of those conversations that never happened. I mean, it didn't happen when I was growing up, and it's still not happening. So, we put a lot of emphasis on mindset, but mindset only goes so far, and everything is all wackadoodle on the inside.
Totally. Well, I just want to like put a little caveat in there that we haven't really included women or researched women very well. So, you and I growing up, like we didn't know about it because they hadn't studied women. They didn't I think it wasn't until 1993 that women were actually required to be a part of medical studies. 1993.
That's crazy.
It's not that long ago.
No.
So, like, that's when they were required to be included in medical studies. And then it's only been in the last couple decades that we've actually been diving into topics and conversations around women, like how are women's hormones impacting the way their brain functions? Like, oh, they actually have the time when they're feeling so much more emotional and they're feeling overwhelmed isn't because there's something wrong with them. It's like that's the part of the brain that's active
Yeah.
right now, you know,
Yeah.
or menopause or perimenopause, right?
Mhm.
I don't know the actual numbers, so don't quote me on this, but it's something when we look at when we compare like the number of research that was done on erectile dysfunction, it's something like tens of thousands of research that's been articles that have been done on it versus perimenopause is like 200 or
Yeah.
500 or something like that, right? It's
Yeah.
astronomically different, the
Right.
amount of research that's been done on women. So yes, I 100% agree with you. We need to be teaching this to our kids, like
Yeah.
understanding it and teaching it to them, but it starts with us. Like we
Yeah.
need to feel empowered in our bodies. Like we need to understand what's happening with our bodies. You know, I have a 14-year-old. And so it's like I'm entering into the perimenopause phase as she's entering into the menstrual phase. And so it's interesting to watch. Like we're both navigating what's happening in our bodies, what's actually going on. And it's brought up really great conversations. I actually was talking to a client recently. I was like, I didn't realize how watching my daughter like start going through menstruation and that cycle and stuff, how much healing it was going to do on me in
Mm.
terms of the shame and the stigma that many of us have been so ingrained with, right? Like we've been so ingrained as culture and generations to not talk about it, that we can't include it in the way we work. Like I think there was a research study that was done that 50% of people think it's inappropriate to talk about in the workplace, but yet it impacts so much about how we show up, right? All of these things, like it's something we don't talk about. There's so much trauma, stigma, taboo all around that. And then now to watch and like be guiding my daughter through it and trying to put all of those stories, all of those, that labeling, all of that stuff on the back shelf as I approach it with her, like I didn't realize how much it was going to continue to heal me
Wow.
in that process. And I think that that's where the work begins. It's like we have to heal ourselves and
Right.
put ourselves in a place to be able to change that for the next generation.
Yeah, because it's such that negative connotation. Oh, like when women are
Mhm.
emotional, oh, they must be on the period,
Mhm.
and they just like blasé about it versus really understanding that this is a real thing and we recognize it, but it's not something negative or something
Yeah.
to, some often people would be made fun of
Yeah.
for having that, additional emotional strength. And I call
Yeah.
it emotional strength because it's empowering,
Mhm.
it is our strength. It's a freaking
Totally.
power. I love this.
Yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
you brought this to light. What is next for you? What else do you have going on?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I've always said that I wrote my book a few years ago, and I always said I was going to write a book for my daughter as she went through the process. And I started writing like letters to her, like
Yeah.
letters to my daughter, and she was not receptive to them. So maybe my third child is another girl. Maybe when she hits that stage, she might be more open and receiving, and then I'll write those and then publish it as a book. But for now, I host retreats. So I love bringing women together and like really helping them. This year's theme is Awaken Your Wild Feminine, really helping to cultivate this sense of like women owning their voice, like women not being soft and not being lazy and not being weak. Like I think there's a lot of messaging right now in our world that femininity is softness and femininity is women just baking in the kitchen and being mother hens type of energy. And I really see there is an element of that within femininity, but there's also this element of femininity that is wild and sacred, and it
Fire,
creates big
power.
change in the world. Yes. And I feel that energy so deeply right now. So that's the theme of this year's retreat. So that's kind of the next big thing that's up on my plate. But otherwise, it's just really helping and serve and support women and getting this message out to as many women that need it. Because I really do believe every woman needs this, regardless if you're in business or not in
Yeah.
business, or,
Yeah.
if you're a teenager, or if you're menstrual or non-menstrual. Like I really do believe there's so much power for women in learning how to listen to themselves.
Absolutely. And where do you hold the retreats?
Every year's been different, but this year it'll be in San Diego.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. How can people get a hold of you, follow you? What's your social?
Yeah, my favorite place to hang out is on Instagram. So you can find me just at my name, Renae Fieck, over there. Same with the website, renaefieck.com. I do have my book, and I would love to give away a free copy to your listeners. If they're in the United States, you can go over to renaefieck.com/free book and get a free copy. You just cover shipping and handling. If you're outside the United States, then can't do shipping and handling that way. So if you just go over to renaefieck.com/chapter, I'll send you the first couple chapters on the audiobook as well. So those would be the best places to find me.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for bringing this conversation to light. I absolutely loved it. And everyone, please go over and follow Renae on your favorite social media, connect with her, grab her book, take a look at her retreat. And thank you all. Thank you, Renae, for coming on. Thank you everyone for listening to the Unapologetically Badass podcast. Feel free to, and please share this with a friend, because as women, we all need this info. So thank you all. For today, Queen, but don't just walk away inspired, walk away activated. If this episode lit a fire under your fabulous ass, hit that follow button, leave a review, and share it with your fiercest ride or die. Your support helps this podcast reach even more women who are ready to reclaim their power. And hey, if you're ready to look, feel, and earn like $1 million freaking bucks, I've got an entire badass empire waiting for you. From confidence boosting merch to brand strategy, coaching, collagen, content, and everything in between, head on over to RenaeCarbonFleming.com or tap the link in the show notes. Pick your flavor of badass and let's turn midlife into your power era. Stay bold, stay unapologetic, and wear the damn crown.